Hello, fellow hellbound friends. My name's Jamie, and this is To Hell in a Podcast.
But you were born. Welcome to planet Earth each day. It's death and more.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the To Hell in a Podcast, a podcast with four lady friends who are slowly inching their way to hell, one conversation at a time. For those of you tuning back in, thank you. We appreciate your patronage of our podcast and hope you continue to come and watch and listen and all that fun stuff. For all of our new listeners, a little explainer. We are a podcast literally of four lady friends. We've known each other for a very long time. We already know way too much about each other, and we decided we want to share more of that with everyone. Because what's embarrassing about that? Nothing. Everything.
No.
But it's fine.
Teachers!
So I'm Kelly. I'm joined by the lovely Jamie, Erin, Queen of Scots, and the other Erin. Don't let the name fool you. We love her just as much as everyone else. But so today I'm going to get us started off. So our main theme for this episode is going to be motherhood. Two of the podcasters are mothers. Two are not. One is especially sure she's not going to be a mother. That's me. But we're just going to ask them some questions about motherhood in general and hopefully have some laughs and learn some things that I probably don't ever want to know. But I'm going to learn today. But before we do that, we have a TMI question to answer. This one is from me specifically. And so my question for everyone is, what is one of the worst movies you've seen? A bad movie that you either really love, but you know is bad, or that's really bad and you just know you hate it, and why? So I'm not the only one talking for the first 20 minutes of this podcast. I'm going to choose Erin, Queen of Scots, to answer this question first.
Okay, so I love bad movies and like rewatching them. I have like a special place in my heart for some really terrible films. But there's one that like always sticks out to me. If it's on, I will watch it. It's called Daybreakers. Okay, and it's got like Ethan Hawke, who I really don't care for, and Willem Dafoe, who is the bomb. I love Willem Dafoe, but like humanity has all become basically vampires. Like they've all become vampires. And there's like humans like kind of on the outskirts and stuff. And like it's so ridiculous because like Willem Dafoe used to be a vampire, but like accidentally became human again because like he lit on fire for like long enough in the sun that like it made him human again. And it's so fucking stupid. But it's like the best.
What year is this? I can't remember.
I was in college, so like maybe 2009, like 2010-ish.
Really? Wow.
And it's so bad. And like Sam O'Neill's in there, like, and he looks terrible. Like he could not be pale, like at all. That's not his. He needs to be tanned and in the outdoors, a la Jurassic Park. Yeah. But it's so bad. Like the vampire graphics and stuff, and then like the vampires start like going feral.
Are they supposed to be scary vampires? Like, are you?
No, they're all like they're just people. Like they just look like people. But then the vampires start going like feral, and they look all like vampire batty. And it is the dumbest shit, but Willem Dafoe has some of the best one-liners in that movie like I have ever heard, and they kill me every time. So,
is it supposed to be a comedy? Like what? It supposed to be a comedy?
No. Okay. It's very serious. And
if you are a bad movie connoisseur, you know that the truly good bad movies are the ones that took themselves seriously. And still came out bad.
Right.
That's what makes a truly good bad movie.
And like there's some like elements of like, okay, that could be interesting in it, but like they go nowhere with it. And it's just like it's like the worst. And like it's really bad. And I don't know what they were going for and like what the message is ultimately. Like I really have no idea. But fuck is it fantastic. So I rewatched it one time. It was on, I can't remember, like a movie channel. I was like, fuck yeah. Like rewatched it again because it's so bad.
I'm gonna have to keep a lookout for that on TV because I've never heard of it.
It's worth like the $2.99 rental fee that I'm sure it's costing. So I mean, like I'm sure you'd be fine. It's just
one that's like like a waste of time and money, and like yours is like rewatchability is still there.
Yeah, because it's so bad, and I love it. And Willem Dafoe, I love him and his creepiness. So he does.
How can you not?
He's just fan. And that man gives no fucks about what movies he's in. He'll take any role.
He's
so
on everything.
Yeah.
All right. So I will pick Jamie to go next.
So like I said, I had to look up the name of the title because I couldn't remember, but I swear this was not the name of the title. Maybe it was the one we watched. It was called Enemy. So it has like Jake Gyllenhaal in it, and who else? Like Melanie Laurent, or I don't know if you know her, and who else? This other girl I recognize.
Well, what's the plot?
Okay, so it's like a kind of like a dorky, like Jake Gyllenhaal, like, you know, kind of dorked down. He's a professor, like a history professor, and he's like watching a movie, like an obscure, just some random movie, and he sees a guy in the background, like an extra, who looks just like him, and he becomes obsessed to find this guy, and he like finds the guy, and the guy is like married to this. So like he's the dorky history professor, but he's with like Melanie Laurent. They like kind of have like not like a super serious relationship, but like they have sex and occasionally. But then so he meets that, finally finds this actor he's like obsessed with. Like he goes into the place where he finds like the talent agency, and he pretends to be him, like because the guy's like, oh, and calls him, I forget the other name, and
Billy.
so then he stalks this guy, and the actor's married to is like the opposite, where he's kind of like a kind of sleazy guy actor who's like married to this one like kind of younger, pretty blonde, and she's like pregnant, and she thinks he's cheating on, like he's just like a scumbag. Anyway, they it's just so weird. Like I said, the like history one is like so obsessed with like finding. And then there's just like, even how it starts, it's like really weird. Like it starts like with this just random shot in this like weird like sex club or like some like sleep club, and they like open a thing and it's a spider, and I hate spiders. I'm like, I was like, I want this movie right away. And then
that's why you hate it, the spiders.
And like the actor is like, he really wants to sleep. Then he like follows the history guy and like decides he really wants to sleep with the girlfriend. So he's like, we gotta trade like days, like trade spots for a day or whatever. And
so it's like modern Prince and the Pauper stuff.
Well, he like kind of like threatens him. He threatens him. He's like, I'll be outdone. Like we'll never like see each other again if you let me sleep with your girlfriend. And so
Jesus Christ.
Sorry, is Jake Gyllenhaal, does he play both characters?
Yeah, he does.
Oh,
like the multiplicity shit.
And then he so then he like, and then the dorky one is like falling in love with the pregnant girlfriend. It's just like really weird. And then the sleazy actor has sex with the girlfriend, and then she notices like the wedding ring line. He had his wedding ring off, but like the line, and she's like, who are you? And like freaks out, and they flip out, and he like makes her go in the car with them, and then they both get into like a big car accident and die, the girlfriend and then the history professor like was almost like implied he's like going to take on this guy's life, like the actor. And then the last shot, the pregnant lady goes into this room in the bedroom, and she like calls him or something, and he goes into the bedroom, and there's a giant fucking spider in the corner, like a giant like room size spider that's like implied that like she turned into, because there's like hints of spiders throughout the movie, and I was like,
Wait, I'm sorry, because I'm super confused.
The pregnant woman turned into a spider.
It's kind of implied, like, and then it just ends.
In there,
was just the spider.
Just the spider.
Maybe the spider ate her.
And sorry, here's my question. So, do they ever explain why these two assholes look exactly the same? Do you ever get an answer to that?
I guess I remember he like talks to his mom. He like thinks the mom's like hiding that she had twin boys, and the mom. It's never explained why they look exactly alike. And then like I said, the very beginning throughout there were like weird things with spiders, and then that very end, and I was so mad at Kevin for choosing this movie, especially the spider piece.
It sounds like something Kevin would do.
And then And then I could not, well, because he likes like psychological like thrillers, so I think he like found it on the list. And I was just like, I could not sleep because I could just keep seeing that image of the big spider.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Oh God.
And I was just
like, other than the big spider, that's just really dumb.
Oh
yeah. You know that the screenwriter was like coked up, and he's like, "I've got it. Here's the big."
I know, and I was like, Kevin and I were both like, "What?" We're like, I'm like, okay, I have to read about this. Like, and there's just all these like weird, stupid interpretations. That was just one of those ones where you like, right when you watch it, at the end, you, like want to throw
it's by Denis Villeneuve, so that makes sense. He makes some weird movies.
I just like wanted to throw the remote. I was like, even without that happening, it was already a dumb, like I already just hated all the characters and it was just kind of dumb anyway. And then that happened and you're just like, fuck this. Like I wasted my whole night on this. Like, that's all I have. Stupid.
You choose who goes next, Jane.
Yeah. Sorry, I got so angry.
She needs a minute to calm down.
Kelly.
Okay, so I could probably do an entire episode on this movie. In fact, I'm almost going to insist that you three watch this movie and we do an entire episode on it. But I was just reminded of it because Netflix, every once in a while it'll show you something that you watched. And it'll be like, hey, like, watch this again. And you're like, oh, I'll look at it. So there's this really terrible movie. It's called 365 Days. And it is a movie based off of a Polish romance novel. And I use the term.
Oh, wait, like that terrible erotic movie, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The erotic, the sexy one.
Yes. Except it's not sexy at all. But basically, the premise of the movie is that this guy who is nice in the beginning, and he's nice because he's wearing khakis and a white shirt. His father gets killed in front of him and like the bullet goes through his dad and hits him and he almost dies. And right before this terrible thing had happened, he's looking through binoculars onto a beach and he sees this woman that he's like watching through binoculars. But your understanding is that that's his first time ever seeing this woman.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then it fast forwards a couple of years and now he's evil and he is because he wears all black now.
Right.
And he has like a beard, basically. So
it's subtle.
It's subtle. The difference,
symbolism. Right.
Yeah.
But so he randomly sees this woman in an airport and decides that it's fate that they would meet one another again. And so he kidnaps her and takes her to Sicily with him.
Jesus.
And tells her that he is going to keep her captive for 365 days for 1 year. So that she can fall in love with him. Because apparently when he's in his gunshot, coma, I guess, her picture is the only one that he sees in his mind. And so he's just sure that she's the reason that he survived. And that fate means that the two of them should be together and fall in love with one another.
Does she have a family or like?
Oh yeah, of course. Oh no, it's not over. So she has a boyfriend in the beginning.
Oh,
he's kind of a dick, right? I mean, like he's sort of a dick. He doesn't really treat her well.
Wear khakis or all black.
Now he dresses like a nerd, basically.
No, so khakis.
Yeah, basically. It's like, but not a sexy good guy, a nerdy good guy, because there's a difference in this movie. You can see right off.
Right.
But so he kidnaps her, and she's basically, and he tells her that he won't have sex with her until she wants to have sex with him. And he says this as he's groping her body. He's like, I won't touch you until you want me to, as he's touching her body.
Just like that.
My heart.
Yeah, so in the beginning...
Okay, wait. Super important question. Is he hot? Is he objective?
Oh, yeah. Of course. Of course. And here's the other funny thing is that she is Polish. He is Italian because he's a mafia. That's basically what happened is his mafia dad died. He had to take over the family business.
Of course he was right. That's the only thing an Italian person can be.
Yeah,
exactly. So
Kelly knows this. She's Italian.
I mean, that's all we're allowed to be. So she's Polish. He's Italian. The original book is written in Polish. You can't even get it in English because, of course, I've looked because I do want to read the book in English. But for whatever reason, they speak English through most of the movie. And I don't know why, because it's not an American-made movie. No one in it is American, which makes some of the people who are pretending to be American hysterical. But so at first, like, she sort of reacts the way that a person probably would. She's freaked out. She's worried. Then they go on a shopping montage trip. And then she's just sort of trying on stuff. She seems to be having a good time. And then she runs out of this building, whatever, and she meets with some police officers, and she's like, oh my God, can you help me? Like, are you able to help? And they just walk away. She turns around. There's a guy in all black, evil guy, who's maybe not evil now. He is.
I mean, he let her go shopping. He can't be that evil.
Right? And so she's, so she's like, oh, did you mean it when you said that you wouldn't touch me unless I wanted to? And he says, yes, I do mean that. I'm not a monster. Still, he's kidnapped her and is holding her against her will. And she then decides that the best thing to do for her own survival with this man, who, by the way, has portraits of her up on the walls in his house. Yeah, which I'm actually concerned about, because it's like, number one, how did you get a likeness of her? Like, did you just sit with an artist and describe what she looked like for hours and hours so he could paint an accurate portrait of her face? Like, how did you get this?
Through binocular.
Yeah, because he doesn't know who she is. He doesn't know who she is.
Yeah, you can't look her up and like send a picture to him.
Who is this hot lady I saw on the beach?
Because if he could have looked her up, he would have kidnapped her years ago. That's the whole thing. True. And so basically, she decides for her own survival, what she should do is start to try and sexually tease him and push him basically to the edge of sexual frustration. Because that's what any normal woman would do when held by a sexy Italian mobster who, again, it snaps you.
Yes.
So basically it's them going back and forth. Lots of things happen. He ends up sending her back to Poland because her life has been threatened by another mafia family, because he was boning that mafia's like queen or whatever. Mafia. And she's upset about it, and so she wants to kill the main Polish girl. So he sends her back to Poland. So she's free, right? Like, he gives her an apartment and she just goes and stays at this apartment that he has given her. Doesn't, like, I don't know, go to her parents or the police.
He's not there. So he's not there with her in the apartment.
Because he has to stay in Italy and take care of the problem, as mafiosos do.
Right, yes, of course.
And then he comes back and she's all upset because he's left her in Poland with no explanation. And they, of course, start to have angry sex, because why wouldn't you? And that's the best way to communicate, really, when you have issues in your relationship. And
absolutely.
Yep. And then she shirt open at one point and sees that he has bruises. And she's like, what's this? And they're not very big bruises, so I'm not sure why it upsets her as much as it does. And she's like, I don't need 365 days because I love you.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
What?
She decides that she's in love with him, that she's fallen in love with him, even though he's constantly grabbing her neck and like moving her around via her neck. Like, weird.
That must be her kink. That's her thing.
It happens so often that he grabs her neck in some form that I even noticed. I was like, why is he doing this constantly? And so, because at one point he tells her, like, I need you to teach me how to be gentle. And it's like, well, rule number 1, stop grabbing necks.
Yeah, stop grabbing my neck.
Yeah.
It's a good rule.
Stop trying to move me around via the back of my neck like you're scruffing me like I'm a little kitten. Knock it off.
Quit that.
That shouldn't be done. But so then you find out that she is pregnant.
Of course.
Because apparently they haven't been using protection. So maybe he meant to trap her the entire time through pregnancy. Like, I'm going to give you a year to knock you up, so then you have to stay. But so then she decides to marry him. She's pregnant. And then at the very end of the movie, they're on the phone together. One of the Italian mobsters gets a call saying they're going to try and kill Laura right now. The mobster's like, drive faster. There's nothing I can do to stop this, apparently, because it's happening right at this moment. She drives into a tunnel, and then she never comes out the other side. The car doesn't come out the other side. And then this old mobster guy runs up to where the young, evil, but not evil mobster guy is. And he's just like, oh my God, he falls to his knees. And that's the end of the movie.
What?
Because it's a 3-part book. So there's more movies coming at some point, is my guess.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's just a lot of stuff wrong with it, obviously. The sex scenes in it are not attractive. Like, they're not good. Like, the first scene that you ever see him in, he's getting a blowjob from a stewardess, but you don't understand why it's happening. He's literally on a plane, and one of the guys tells him that some of their drugs are missing. And I don't know if he's accusing this stewardess of taking the drugs, or if he's like, well, if I can't have drugs, I'm going to have a blowjob instead. But he literally just corners her in the back of this plane while 2 people are sitting behind a partition. Like, there's not a door. Like, there's just a curtain.
Look away.
Oh, well, he closes the curtain.
So he's very courteous.
Yeah, exactly. So they can't see it. They can just hear it happening, apparently. And he just gets a blowjob from the stewardess, and you're like, was that punishment? Was that stress relief? Why? For what purpose? Why would you do that? It's really terrible. I encourage all of you to watch it, because I don't want to be the only one to suffer through this one and like have to try and come to grips with it on my own.
I've heard about now that when you started talking about it, I remember
a lot of people
articles.
Like, it's so hot and stuff, and I read the description, I was like, oh, I'm gonna play.
I remember hearing that, like,
it's very it's
a captive thing. That's the only thing I knew. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, it has a lot of problems just in terms of the way that normal humans would react to situations, and also, little things like consent and whatnot. Consent is sexy, kids. Remember that. But yeah, so I want to say that I hate it, because I hate so much about it, but I'm also weirdly fascinated by it, because I'm just like, this book got written, became so popular that they're like, we're going to make this into a movie. And then we're going to get these people to act in this movie, and they're going to actually agree, because apparently nobody sees anything wrong with this whole scenario and like what's going on with it. And then you learn that like 2 or 3 of the songs in the movie are sung by the main guy. And I'm going to walk down to the aisle to one of them. I've already decided if I get married.
I hope it's a song like in Italian that's like, I hold you captive.
Oh no, all of the songs are also sung in English by someone you can tell does not speak English as a first language. All the songs are in English as
Can you please find the songs and send them to us? Because now I'm really curious.
You have to watch the movie.
No.
How will we know which song? What?
Yeah,
you watch the movie.
You'll feel it. You'll feel it in your heart.
You watch the movie, and then I'll tell you which song it is.
Yeah.
I'm forcing people to watch this movie. I will not suffer alone. Misery loves company. But that is my...
I'll watch it to know the song.
There's 3. There are 3 songs in it that he sings, and one of the songs which he does not sing, I will walk down the aisle to. I swear to God. If I ever get married.
I picture them these weird pop punk songs.
I think of it like it's like, is it like Euro house music? Like,
you know what? You're just gonna have to watch it and see. You're just gonna have to watch the movie and see. We're gonna have to have a long, probably full episode talking about nothing but it, because seriously, it's that bad.
I can accept
and that fascinating. Because and I even get it, right? Like, I get the fantasy of it, and like people being interested in it. And people should like what they like, and whatever that is, so long as you're consenting adults. That's the problem, though. One of the people is not consenting to that scenario. That's why there's kind of an issue with it. But that's mine, and I encourage all of you to watch it so I don't suffer in silence. Not that I would do anything silently, but so I don't suffer alone, really.
Yes, alone, solitarily.
Exactly. But sorry, so Erin, tell me, not to give a full synopsis of that movie, but it sort of deserves it, I think.
Oh yeah.
But Erin,
mine won't need a full synopsis because it's like in the culture. So mine would be the new Little Women from 2019. I started watching it and I had to stop because I kept pausing after every minute and being like, I hate this. This is I hate it so much. And that is as a Louisa May Alcott super fan, like when I was in elementary school, during our family vacation, I made the family go to a pilgrimage to Orchard House. I was obsessed, and I love the 93 movie with Winona Ryder and Christian Bale.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
The 2019 one is
modern one is better. I think the modern one is the best of them.
It's so bad. Like all the main parts are, all the main like beats and stuff are so condensed.
It's like Harry Potter.
It's
I haven't seen any of them.
All the main things are condensed. I hate the costumes are like are historically inaccurate, but also like ugly. Like it's not like in a nice way. And they have so many bangs. Why are there so many bangs in 1860s Concord? They're fine, but in 1860s Concord, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Jamie's like, oh, okay, I see how you feel now.
You had to go out on bangs.
The Banger Girls, they have to stick together.
I couldn't get through halfway through, and I was just like, I just threw in the towel because I was not looking forward to it, but like it has like it does have actors that I like in it, and then I was like, it might do some things better than the other ones, but I just there's nothing about it that I enjoyed, so I just couldn't get through the rest of it. I was just like, nope, not for me. And Jamie knows it because she's heard the same rant like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Hey, I can't say anything. There are very few remakes of any movies that I've ever seen and actually liked.
Yeah.
I can't think of one, actually. So you're not wrong to like your originals. Mm-hmm. But, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. That took longer than I expected it to, mostly because of me. Apologies. But so we're going to move into the second part of this, the motherhood portion of it. So I'm not going to be able to answer any of these questions. Aaron won't be able to either. But so we came up with a couple of questions, me and Aaron both, coming from people who don't have any kids, to ask our two lovely mothers their opinions about it. So I'm going to start out. Now, I tried to pull some that were a little bit mommy blogger because I feel, you have to have some of those. And then I have some that are hopefully a little bit less that way. But I'll start with one of the mommy blogger ones, which is, how did you feel when you first found out you were pregnant with your first child?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
you go, Jamie. You go ahead.
I mean, I've had a pretty long road to motherhood, through infertility for a few years and 2 failed IVF. And then the previous month we had a natural miscarriage. So like the first time I got pregnant, not through IVF. And so I pretty much was kind of resigned to like, I don't know how this is going to work and things. And we actually had a adoption online seminar that the same night I ended up finding out, taking the test and found out I was pregnant with Henry. So, I mean, I was shocked, and I handed it to Kevin. He was like, what? Cause, we only tried once that month, and not even really tried. It was just like, it's like my fertile time, whatever, cause I was tracking and stuff. And so kind of shock. And then obviously being very apprehensive. So never, until really, I would say week 9 till I really approached, and actually probably not till 10 after we got all the blood work, very, not excited, but cautious. So cautious. So that I think has been the hardest thing is I never got I guess I kind of did my first time I got pregnant, just the pure joy of being pregnant. And then that was snatched. So every other time I've been pregnant, which has been quite, I was just telling Aaron, I was oh my God, I've been pregnant 6 times.
You're medieval queen status.
Getting pregnant.
Popping those babies out.
Getting pregnant's not hard, but staying pregnant is for me. And so that I kind of hate just because I've never had obviously I only have 1 kid. So, I have never had an easy thing. Mm-hmm. So.
Right. well, and with mine, we didn't have, fortunately, we didn't have any of the like miscarriage issues, but we had been trying for Wes for like 7 months. And like each month I had like kind of pregnancy symptoms. Like one time I like felt so lightheaded I almost passed out, which like never happens to me. So I thought for sure I have to be pregnant, not pregnant. And then another month I was really nauseous, not pregnant. And I like the month before I got pregnant, I was like crying on the couch and I was like, Brian, the uterus is a mystery box. Nothing about it makes any sense. Why doesn't it come with an instruction manual? Why don't they teach us this? And like I went out of town for a conference and like I got a really bad cold and my boobs felt like super heavy, but I was like, this happened every month. I'm not gonna be pregnant, whatever.
Yeah.
So like went about the conference, it was really busy. And then I came back home on like a Monday and it was like Thursday, I remember, and like Brian was asleep on the couch because he gets really bad allergies and has to sleep sitting up. And I was alone upstairs. And I looked at my app and I was like, shit, I'm like 3 days late. And I've like never in my life been late except when I was pregnant. And so I went and took the pregnancy test and I like vividly remembered one of my friends saying that when she took the digital test and she was actually pregnant, it popped up pregnant right away. That like she's like when it blinks and blinks and blinks and blinks, it means you're not pregnant. And so I was like, fine. And I set it on the nightstand and was like fiddling on my phone. And then I looked over and it said pregnant. I was like, so like I like ran downstairs and like chucked the pregnancy test at a sleeping Brian. I was like, Brian, and he was like, what the fuck? And so like I, like showed it to him and everything. And so I remember just being like really like startled because I thought it was gonna happen like really easily, like that. Like I've had regular periods my whole life. I've never had any concerns, I've never had any like PCOS or any like issues with that. So I was like, I thought this was just gonna be like easy peasy. Right. And it wasn't. With Wes, with Toby, it took a month. Like, wow. I remember I was like sitting upstairs one day, I was like, yeah, I think I'm pregnant. Because I just felt weird. And so like I went and took the test and it was positive and I was like, oh shit, all right. And I like handed it to Brian. He was holding Wesley and I was like, here you go. And he was like, what the fuck?
So you kind of knew? So you felt like you knew
I don't know what it was. Because with Wesley, I was just like so resigned that it was like never going to happen. That I was like getting really negative and stuff about it. And even though my doctor was like, it takes the average couple like 6 months to a year, like don't stress yourself about it. It'll happen. He's like, you don't have any health issues. And so I thought like it's never going to happen. But with Toby, I was like, well, I've been pregnant once before. So I'm in like, it'll maybe happen again. And we only tried for, 2 months technically. And then I was like, oh, because I was just sitting and I was like, my boobs feel weird. I'm going to just go take a test real quick. And I was like, oh shit, I'm pregnant. Yeah. So like with Toby, it was much more, I think there was much more like excitement. Yeah. Yeah. With Wes, just because Wes, I was like, it's never going to happen. And so I was just kind of like stuck in that like kind of spot until we like got to see him and stuff on the ultrasound. And then I was like, hooray, like much more excited after the puking.
For sure.
Erin, do you want to go with a question?
Yeah. How about, okay. Give it to me straight. Labor, is it as bad as I think it would be? Because I think I would spend all 9 months just anxious about it. And I know both of you you've had.
But I mean, Erin had unmedicated. So I'll say like, I mean, labor has been one of my top 3 fears, like in life. So like, I was like, but by the time I was 9 months pregnant, I was like,
get out.
Like, I mean, you're like, and I've always heard women say that and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to be freaked out. But I was like, no, like, please bring it on. Like, and I kept going to acupuncture and I had acupuncture that morning and then mine, like I didn't, like some women are in labor for like a long period of time. Like I woke up at 2 a.m. Yeah. So I did not have like Erin's. I woke up at 2 a.m. and I started timing. Like I woke up with labor pains and I was like, okay.
What do labor pains, just as a side, like what do they feel like? Are they cramps?
Really bad,
like cramps?
Really bad cramps. But like, that's the problem is I didn't quite know. I was like, could this be false labor? Cause it was like 4 days early, but normally first time moms, aren't a lot of times early. So I was like, is this labor pain? And like the timing's hard of when it starts and ends. And they're like, I forget what is it? 3 minutes or
the 3-1-1. It's on the 4-1-1. It's like 4 minutes, like in between.
Yeah.
each for like they last a minute for like an hour.
So it's like a weird thing like that. And I was like, I think I hit that. And I like called the nurse, and Kevin was sleeping downstairs because I was giant and pregnant and snoring.
Right.
Could not be any pretty much from like week or from like month 4 on. I was just like,
Accurate.
I had my giant pregnancy pillow.
Yes.
Just like
mine was named Manuel.
Kevin's like, he's like, I suddenly heard me coming down the stairs, and I'm like, I think it's time. But like I totally expected to get like sent home. Like I was like, for sure. And because even when I got there, I think I was only a few centimeters where they were like, it could go other, they're like, we don't know, like you could have already progressed that way, like in the last few days I saw the doctor. So let's see. But then I did so that part was like, that was only like an hour and a half, or I guess 2 hours. So from an hour when I started, then they gave me an hour there. And that was like, I would say the worst besides the pushing. And then they're like, oh yeah, you're progressing. Do you want an epidural? It's like, yeah, I do.
Yes, please.
I was worried about the epidural. Like I was like, is this going to be, no, it didn't hurt at all. It was like, bloop. And I was like, but I don't think my epidural, I think it wore off, or some women, like, I don't think, cause like Jenny, my sister-in-law, she's like, I couldn't feel anything. They had to tell me when to push. Like, no, I could still feel contractions. And like, I mean, it was gross. Like when my water broke they had to break my water, but like with the pushing, like when the contractions would come, it was just like, out of my vagina.
And it's so much water. Like, how is it fluid?
They were like, whoa. Like she was like surprised because I'm like,
wait, like how much? Like a water bottle worth of water?
No, way more than that.
It's
like a gallon? 2 liter worth of water?
And like every time my contraction would come, it would be like,
more it would like sploosh. Yeah, so like, because with Wes, my water broke in the bathroom at home, and then I got in the shower because I'm like, okay, they told me to like come back in if anything happened, so I got back in the shower, and then I could feel stuff coming out in the shower. But then I was like, I think it's done. So we got in the car, put the towel down just in case. Nothing happened in the car, and then immediately when I got out of the car in the parking lot, it was just like. Like just a mess. I was like all my legs. I was wearing flip flops, and so they were like squeaking. Like,
Is it sticky or is it like
it's just
actually like, water?
So a lot of people think they pee themselves because it really is just like it's just liquid. Okay. And like I
remember I would like that feeling.
That's like California, like peeing myself for more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like sat down in the wheelchair in the emergency room because they don't let you walk to labor and delivery just in case. And it was late. And like every time I would have a contraction, it was just like, and it was getting everywhere. And like, I was like, when we got into the room, I asked the nurse, I was like, when does this end? And she's like, you should be done by now. And I stood up out of the wheelchair. And again, it was like,
see, I thought it was just like one event, not like continuous.
And mine, they had to break at 9 centimeters.
They broke mine with Toby.
But like I said, so the first part sucked. Then after epidural, like for the first few hours, I was okay. Like I was able to kind of rest some, but I could still feel contractions. Like they weren't.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, they weren't ever gone. And then both Aaron and I had all the pushing, the hours and hours of pushing. So if I didn't have that, so like for my second birth, I'm like hoping, knock on wood, that I'm like most women, that it's like a lot easier. But like after 3 hours of pushing. Like that was like up until then I was like, oh, this is really not as bad as I thought. And like that 3 hours of pushing.
You're never supposed to think that. I
know. That's why I was dumb. I mean, I did like have like a few scares, like where like my blood pressure dropped when they first gave me the epidural. And so I had
that's super normal.
Oxygen. Yeah. But I was just like, and then I had oxygen. And so I was like, oxygen. Henry, and then Kevin would give me like ice chip. And then like drink a little water, then it'd be contraction. Like this pattern. So it really was not horrible. Like the pushing was horrific. Like I would do anything to not relive that. Like luckily my parents came in like the last 20 minutes before Henry was born. I think I would have ended up having an emergency C-section if they hadn't come, because they kind of gave me that last push of energy to like, I was just like, ah! Like, I just remember closing my eyes and they're just like, push. And I'm like, I am. Like, you're just like, so, like, it's just so like visceral and it just like, oh, the like pressure and just like, yeah, you're just like pushing with all your might. And his
Well, and Henry's head was ginormous. Like, how many inches was his head?
Well,
Like
it's close
14?
to 50, or was it inches? Yeah, but it was like they say like they're like, oh, we say like 15 is like where the husband has to give like like a diamond. I forget. Something like that. He was like just shy of that, and he was just shy of 8 pounds too, and so it was
just, like, I can't believe that you had a bigger baby than me. You're like 5 inches shorter than me. Like, you poor thing.
I don't know how he came out of my hip. Like,
yeah, I remember when you told me how big he was. I'm like, how? How did I have a smaller baby than you? Like, well,
I'm just hoping that then for that second baby, he just cleared the way.
Yeah,
I mean, with that giant noggin,
yeah. Well, like, because so I was in back labor and I did not know it for like. Brian and I went out for dinner on Friday after I had my appointment, and my doctor's like, no dilation, and he tried to do like a membrane sweep, which is like basically they shove like an orange. It looks like, you know, those like cuticle pushers, those like orange sticks. They shove that up your cervix, and then like sweep around the amniotic sac to like release it, and so it works 50% of the time. But my doctor was like, well, I can't do this with you because you have membranes of steel, is what he told me. And I was like, neat, this is great. So we like went out to dinner. And I remember I was just like super pissed the entire time at dinner. Like nothing tasted good, super grumpy. And like my back was killing me. And not like normal, I'm carrying a 7.5 pound baby killing me, but like it was really hurting. And it was like kind of like tensing and like spasming. And Brian was like, are you okay? You know, and stuff. I'm like, no, I'm just, my back just hurts. It's fine. And he gave me a back massage and it was nice, you know, but like we went to go see a movie the next day. And because Wesley saw like 6 Marvel movies in utero, because we went to go see Ant-Man. And like my back was like spasming again the whole movie. I like couldn't get comfortable and I was like squirming and kind of like moving around. And then like Sunday, Brian was working his second job and like Wes hadn't moved in like a couple hours and he was active in utero. And so I panicked. Brian comes home. I'm like sobbing because I'm like, oh my God, something's wrong with the baby. And he's like, shit. So he calls, you know, the nurse line. I'm like, why don't you just go on in? And we went on in. He's fine. Of course, he starts moving like the minute they get me hooked up. I'm like, you son of a bitch. But they were like, the nurse was like, do you feel that contraction? I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, you're having contractions. I'm like, no, ma'am, I feel nothing. And she's like, oh, well, why don't you try walking the hallways? Because Lakeside Hospital here, the hallways are actually pretty long. Like the maternity unit there is freaking huge. And so we walked 5 miles up and down the hallways. Nothing happened. I was a centimeter, but they told me I was 100% effaced, which means like your cervix is like super soft. And so they were like, go home, but we'll see you back tomorrow. Is pretty much the nurse was like, you'll have a baby tomorrow. And I was like, okay. So we get dinner, go home. And my mom had come to the hospital. She's all excited. And then she's all bummed. And she's like, okay, I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. And then we go home and I get like 2 hours of sleep. And then the whole water breaking incident happens. We go back and like, I'm not making any progress. So I have to get induced to get Pitocin. And from what I understand, Pitocin injections are infinitely worse than regular ones. And so, like, and the nurse was she was not pleasant. I did not like her. And, like, she wouldn't let Brian sit on this chair. And she's like, excuse me, that's my chair, even though she hadn't been in the room for an hour. So, like, whatever. But I ended up pushing 4.5 hours with Wesley. And the nurse who came in, who took over from my shitty nurse, was like, the bomb. She was like, no, this baby's coming out of you. We're doing this. And she like really helped a lot. She did all these like positions and like strange things with me. But I didn't find out till after Wes was born that I was like 20 minutes away from being a C-section, because the doctor said that if he wasn't born by 9:30, that I would be a C-section. Yeah. And so but he was born at 9:10 and came out and we're born, everything was good to go. And like, because the weird thing is like pushing actually felt like a relief, because the contractions didn't hurt as bad when you actually had something to like do with them. Like when it was like, okay, I can work through these now instead of just like suffering. I cursed a lot of swearing. Like, and so with Toby, because I was early with Wesley, and with Toby, I was like, I'm gonna be early again. This is gonna be great. And then my due date comes, and I'm like, get out of here. Like he didn't, and my doctor scheduled an induction, and I went in to be induced. They did this thing called a Foley bulb, where basically they like stick these balloons up your cervix, and they fill one up with fluid on one side and one up with fluid on the other side, and like the pressure of them both causes your cervix to open. It was actually, I thought it would be insanely uncomfortable. It really wasn't. It just felt really weird because like I've never had anything pushing on both sides of my cervix at the same time. Right. And like, and of course Brian's sleeping the whole time because I told him to. I was like, go to sleep. I need you like full capacity in the morning. But the whole time he's sleeping, I'm just like, this motherfucker. Even though I told him to sleep, like I told him to do it, I'm just like, this motherfucker. Just like snoozing away. Fuck you, man. And like, and then they started Pitocin at like 3:00 in the morning. And one of my doctor's like partners came in and she broke my water at like 7 because I had progressed quite a bit. And she's like, oh, you'll have a baby before noon. And I was like, cool. And then like the contractions just got like heinous. I mean, like at one point in time, like I grabbed Brian and I was like, Brian, I'm going to die. And he was like, you're not, you're okay. And I was like, no, Brian, I'm going to fucking die. Like I cannot do this. And he was like, you're doing so great. And I was like, fuck you. I'm going to die. And like, so he went to go get the nurse because he was like because he's like, I thought you were going to ask for an epidural. And he's like, so I knew you had to be in a lot of pain. Yeah. And I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. Fuck everybody. I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, that FYI, if, Aaron decides to have kids, because I know Kelly won't. If you ever feel like you have to poop, you're going to have a baby. Like,
yeah, I've heard because you some people do.
Well, you use the same muscles to push as you do to poop. So, I mean, like, they're all down. Everything's down there. But, like, and the nurses don't care. They wipe it away and they don't give a shit. Like, they don't care.
And honestly, when you're in labor, that's the last thing.
Like, who cares? Like, every other fluid is coming out of my body. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
And, like,
none of this is convincing me.
Well, like, apparently with Toby, I went from 4 centimeters to 10 in 30 minutes. Which would explain the heinous amount of pain that I was going through. And like, I went to the bathroom. I actually did go to the bathroom. But then as soon as I stood up to go wash my hands, I was like, nope, something's happening. Like, this isn't good. And the nurse heard me because I was like making like bearing down noises. And she was like, no. And like came like running. And she like basically like threw me onto the bed. And like, she was like, you're going to have a baby. You're going to have a baby right now. And I was like, okay, but like, I'm not prepared. Like, I don't know what's going on. Well, in Toby, I pushed twice, and he was born. Like, he was apparently like, oh, you want me out here so bad? Well, here I am. Like, so, like, I pushed, like, his head out, and then I pushed his shoulders, and the rest came out. My doctor didn't have time to get there. He was apparently, like, because they told him, like, you need to come. She's going to have a baby soon. So he was on his way, but they didn't think, like, that soon. And, like, put that much together. But, like, they broke my water with Toby, and they had like towels underneath me to catch it, but the towels and my gown were the grossest things I've ever seen. When they picked him up, I was like, Brian, could you just not look? Like anything involving this?
Well, I like the other day, Kevin was like, when we were recounting Henry's birth, like they had to use the vacuum.
Yeah.
And it was so she said like 3 times. She's like, we're going to try 3 times, 3 times for each. So she was 1, 2, 3, like so pulling. Okay, so she did it, and then it was the last try, the third try of the third one that she got him out. And Kevin was like, yeah. He's like, it was real. Henry's birth was really traumatizing. I was like, oh,
was it, Kevin?
Was it? I was like, he's like, well, see his head come out. I was like, well, I wouldn't know because my eyes were closed because I was about to like die.
So shoving his head out.
Because I was the one who was having a head pop out of my vagina.
And it's like the weirdest feeling when their head like pops out. It's like super strange.
Like whining, they're like, "Do you want a mirror?" I'm like, "No." I just remember, I just remember my voice being like, "No, I don't want to know what's going on."
Oh, see, my doctor asked me in advance if I wanted one. I was like, absolutely not. And he was like, cool beans, we won't ask. And I was like, neat. And they did not. So like they
Okay,
absolutely
so
That would just be
this has been
pure
horrifying.
terror.
This has been horrifying. Let me just say that. This is more than I needed to know about birth in general. And I have the parts to make a baby. Not going to be using them, but
you do what you do, baby.
let's move on to a hopefully less disturbing topic to do with motherhood, because whoa,
I don't
Go
know.
for it.
that's a lot.
Topics I couldn't just-
I feel like we're going to have to put a disclaimer on this. Like,
But no, we're
Traumatized.
earning that
I'm gonna be out of
explicit.
clue.
This could maybe
yeah,
back to birth control.
Oh yeah.
you totally could. So
Let's use
here's
this
my
in
next
sex ed.
question. Hopefully this is a little bit of a more hysterical question to answer, but is there anything about your husband that you pray your kid doesn't get? And I'm not talking, there's no cop outs being like, oh, I hope he doesn't have bad vision and needs glasses, or like, I hope he
No,
doesn't
that's
get
easy.
cancer. No, I'm talking about something about his looks, or something about his
No.
personality, something about him, who he is as a person, that you're like, man, I really hope that doesn't get passed on. I hope that's not a genetic marker of my husband.
Okay, I have mine.
Okay.
I hope they don't get his resting bitch face. Because like I feel bad because I know it has like impacted his life deeply. Like everyone always thought he was mad all the time. Like he's not. He's just chilling most of the time. But like his whole teenage years, everyone's like, "What's that grumpy kid over there doing?" And he's not grumpy. That's just his face. You know, like he's not.
He's got grumpy cat. He's got grumpy cat.
He's got
face.
good brows, like, real strong brow. It just makes him look grumpy.
Yeah.
And like I hope that they don't get that because I always felt so bad because people were so shitty to him in school anyway. But then they were like, "Oh, there's a grumpy kid over there," and like, number one, I would murder those children. But you know, number two,
always good to talk about child murder on a podcast.
yes,
Where you're
100%.
being recorded.
But you know, like it would. That's the one I think that no, I wouldn't want them to get that. And I think Wes has it. Like,
Yeah.
does.
Ooh, that's hard.
I bet it's not. I bet it's not as hard as you're pretending it is.
She's just narrowing it down.
No, it's like there's like
She's like, it's hard because it's such a long list.
So
like,
many.
I had to pick one.
hard because there's like aspects that I'm like you jokingly are like, you are just like your dad. I cannot. Well, I guess the big thing, but it's already. I mean, but it's this one's kind of a cop out, but then I guess a better one. But like the early morning rising, like Kevin's like I'm up and I'm like super happy to be up and like, hey, good morning. But like no, but like in a really annoying way, like I'm like not only.
That's like answering in an interview. It's like, yeah, one of my problems, one of my biggest weaknesses is I just care too much.
Yeah, I'm too organized.
No, but it's obnoxious because it's like if you're.
I want to hear your better one. I want to hear the one that's
I know, but if you don't
insulting.
give like the good morning, like he's like thinks something's wrong and like gets all grumpy, like why are you up? And I'm like, I haven't even had coffee yet. Like, and he's also like, let's go to the store. Let's go for a walk. Let's do this. And I'm like, no, I haven't.
So it's too peppy.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
it's like,
okay.
But it's like, and then there's the expectation that you're just as peppy. You're like at his level.
Okay, but like, didn't you just describe all children? Because like,
yeah.
Well,
like Wes gets up and he's like,
well, that's the thing. Like right now, I don't know if it's because Henry's a child or if he's gained that piece. But in case that one, but like I said, to be fair, it's not just like, oh, he's so nice in the morning. He like, the expectation is that you are equally as nice in the morning. You are equally as like ready to go to Target or ready to go to like.
No, I want to hear the other one. I want to hear the non-cop out one. I'm unsatisfied with your answer.
Well, I hope this is also kind of sad. I hope he doesn't get like the short gene because Kevin said how much he got teased as a kid.
No.
Oh,
I can accept that one.
So
Kyle Jean.
Yeah, I totally get that. That's much better because it's insulting to Kevin. No, joking.
He's taller than us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not hard, you guys.
I mean,
I'm
is he
taller
taller?
than you.
Wait, is he taller than me?
Yeah, I
How
think
tall
he's
is
like
he?
5'6".
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like a half an inch taller than me. So
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
I just am saying you can't do one that you could give as an answer in an interview, and people have been like, "Oh man,
yeah." But like I said, it's the extreme version. To be fair, like like I said, it would be one thing, like when you're dating and stuff, it's all like, oh, he's like a morning person and all that stuff. And like when you're married and you have children and then you're like, or
See,
or like
I appreciate that Brian's a morning person because that means he gets up with the kids.
well, Kevin does like kind of now, but like the problem is before we would like alternate and he would be up. That's what would drive me the most crazy because he'd be up at 6 and just on his phone in the bed. And I'm like, you're not even taking advantage of it. I'd be sleeping. Like you can't, like you're just lying in bed on your
That
phone.
would be the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I would get more out of this than you're getting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually I could see.
Yes,
then,
I can see that.
Or like on your day sleeping in, if it's like 9:30, he's like, "You gonna sleep all morning?" And you're like, "It's 9:30. In what universe is this?"
That's early for me.
I'm gonna sleep till noon now,
early.
bitch.
Seriously. All right, Erin, please choose a question, and if you could try not to get super disgusting again, I would appreciate it.
I was gonna. Well, okay. So, what about?
Yeah, see, I knew I needed to put the disclaimer down.
What about like sort of thing that you weren't prepared for, hadn't read about, or like heard about in terms of like? I mean, it could be either childbirth or it could just be like parenting,
Motherhood
things in general. Yeah, motherhood in general.
The boob, the breastfeeding, and even just pumping. Like, I thought it was going to be much more like seamless. Like, oh yeah, just every few hours you'll pump. Like, it's going to be so like you just fit it into your schedule, and instead it's like you're ruled by the pump. If you're
you're leaking.
Yeah, like and like Aaron and I both like kind of went to like mostly pumping on like, but even with that, it was like, yeah, like anytime you're out for like more than a few hours, it would be like I remember going to a bachelorette party and being like they would just be like rock hard and they'd hurt, and so you have to go to the bathroom in this one place. You also have to scout out like bathrooms. Like this one place only had two unisex. Oh, it was like a distillery. Only had 2 unisex bathrooms for the whole place. So I'm like, well, I can't pump in there for 15 minutes, or even like you know what I mean. And then the other place,
gross,
similar thing.
Bathroom.
I know, but they had like no, like you suddenly realize how like ill-equipped our world is for like fucking moms, and so it's like. Okay, and then we went to a theater and they again only had 2 bathrooms. So I was like, what am I fucking supposed to do? Like my boobs are like burning and like are leaking and like and then when I was down to like 1 pump a day when we went on our vacation. It was just in the morning and then I lost part of the pump piece. So I just had to like which I was gonna get rid of. Obviously it was just 1 pump, but it was like just I think my like then the hormones kind of dipped, just like I got like super kind of really cranky at the end of the trip, and then I was like, oh, it's probably my hormones. Like
the symptoms are really similar to being pregnant again. Like
really?
Really?
Pregnant again. Yeah, it kind of just ruined like those last few days because I just remember being like super on edge and like cranky and like again it was not horribly as like uncomfortable as like at the beginning. I just think like there's not anywhere near like the realization and like teaching about that. Like I had once I got rid of pumping, I felt like finally like more myself.
Freedom. Yeah.
Like
I was your body was yours again.
Like I told Brian if we had another kid, I'm not doing it. I was like, nope, it's gonna be 100% formula. Screw it, I can't. Like I'm not.
I know. I don't think even
we're 80s babies. We were
I was on formula
baby. So
yeah.
I mean, I applaud you for even doing any with your second. Like I honestly don't even think for my second. I'm like,
nah.
I just can't. Like once I realized how much it like was ruling and like affecting my life, I was like, why did I do that for so long? Like, and
it's not necessary.
Yeah, and I don't know why. Like, and I even knew all the ideas of guilt and like it's not even like I had that, but there's just something that like your mom brain like beats yourself up and you're like, oh, I can do it or I can do this and that. So
I can sacrifice and stuff. And I think my thing about motherhood that has shocked me the most is just the amount of times per day I talk to my son about his penis. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. And we're potty training him right now, but sometimes I'm like, bud, no, I don't want to talk about your genitals more. Like, please. Like, the amount of times per day that he's like, "Mommy penis." I'm like, "No, honey, mommy doesn't have a penis."
I wonder if it is like that sort of a boy thing, because I mean, just
No, girls
having
the junk too. It's just more so that it's like all the time, and he's like, "But mommy penis." I'm like, "Right, but honey, mommy doesn't have a penis." Where mommy penis? Well, I've never had one, sweethearts. Okay,
it's not missing.
yes, the dog penis, daddy
Yeah.
penis, yes,
It's
Toby
like
penis.
it's not missing. We don't have to try and find it.
I'm
I've
like,
never had
all
it.
penises, correct? Yes, I don't. And he'll look at me changing, and you can tell he's like, "Where is that thing? Like, I don't see yours." And he'll come up and be like, "Mommy penis." I'm like, "Buddy, I don't have one. Like, please."
Yeah.
I guess that's the one good thing about Henry being like not speaking right now.
Like,
Is that,
just
but he keeps picking out. He's gotten into the phase where he is like always picking his nose and eating it.
oh,
I didn't know how many times a day I have to be like, Henry, no, don't pick your no, or eating Play-Doh.
kids
He's
are
always
so
like,
gross. Like, they're so gross, and like you just get so used to like bodily fluids, like more so than you ever really think that
Yeah.
reasonably you should. You know, like where you're like, this is not.
I know.
Like, I shouldn't do this okay with bodily
Like
fluids.
you're grabbing the nose and like like my sister-in-law too, like Jenny, she's like super and like and again, Aaron, not OCD, like you know, she actually has OCD, like so she does not like she's like again, when I'm talking about like a clean freak, like I'm not saying like an extreme, like she actually like again OCD actually, and like that was a big thing like when she was like pregnant, being like, oh, it's like all the bodily fluids, and then like last weekend we were having breakfast with Kevin's parents, and Jenny had her 1-year-old, and she had just eaten food, and Kevin's mom had been bouncing her, and then she like it was like volcanic, like eruption vomit, and Jenny's like just grabbing it with her hand. You know what I mean? Like as a mom, you're like, like doing this, like and it makes you laugh because you're like, oh, if you would have told me like a year ago, Jenny's gonna be like catching volcanic, like just vomit. You know?
Yeah.
How do we keep ending up here?
I know. He said not gross, but
well, it's like sort of motherhood in
It's like part of
nutshell.
it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just traumatized. But let's end with one last question, because obviously we could probably do a lot more with this, and I'm sure we'll probably do other episodes that are mommy related. But last question, sort of not lightning round, but just, you know, a good answer to it. Is there something that your parents did when you were a kid that you swore you would never do, but you have since broken that vow?
I don't know.
yeah.
Because I mean, like, I think most of my mom's parenting choices were pretty solid. My dad wasn't there for a lot of it, but I think most of my mom's, I don't think there was ever, it was mostly teenager stuff when you were a teenager, like, I'm never going to raise my kids like this, like, sort of thing, where it's just like, you realize as an adult that she's being perfectly reasonable, and like, there's nothing wrong with what she's doing. Like, but yeah, I can't really, I mean, I know I told myself before we had kids that I was like really going to limit screen time and stuff. That is motherfucking out the window. Like, this morning watched an episode of Dinosaur Train before we went to daycare, and like he regularly talks about like Hercules and like all these Disney movies that I could literally recite beginning to end because I've watched them so many fucking times. And like I think that's like a rule that I remember. I was like, yeah, we're really, and we did for a really long time. We really limited Wes's screen time. He'd watch like 10 minutes of a movie, and then the pandemic happened, and like I was working from home, and Brian was staying home with Wes, and like poor Brian had to survive somehow. And if that means you're watching a whole fucking Disney movie, that's what it fucking means. You know, it's not really any. Yeah. And now like Toby's not going to get limited screen time. What are we going to do? Like hide him while Wes watches the TV? No, like right, what? Yeah. I don't care. You just watch it. I think that's one that I remember. I like steadfastly was like, yeah, I'm going to follow those screen time rules. But fool I was.
Well, everything's out the door with quarantine, and then add little kids, and this is so much time.
So many times, y'all. We have like deep philosophical discussions about Disney movies because that's literally what we watch, y'all. So
yeah, I don't. Yeah, that one's hard. Like, I've had a much bigger appreciation for like my parents, especially my mom, especially for having twins. I'm like.
I don't know how they did that.
For anybody who has multiples, like, and it's so funny because when we were like trying IVF, Kevin was like of course, being a guy who'd never been around babies, was like, let's just get have twins and like knock it out. And of course now he's like, I'm like, Kevin, what if like, because I had like a dream the other day that we had twin boys, and he's like, how horrible would that be? Like, he's just like completely honest. So that was his reaction. So I think I have a better appreciation. I guess the only thing I can think more of is like, since we were twins, and again, like my parents were both working full time, like there was a lot of time that it'd be like, set up a camera and like have like basically like our own independence. So I think at some point I was like, oh, like very much like kind of involved with everything. And then you realize, and again, quarantine where you're like exhausted, you're like, yeah, go play with your trains.
Yeah, like please.
Here on the couch watching over here. So I think,
love you.
Yeah, I think the independent play, like, and I know it's good for them, but like, you know, as like a new mom, you're like, oh, I'm going to be involved in every moment of their day and like have every like little craft thing. And my mom was never like that, but I think like, and I never like thought I was going to be like a Pinterest mom, but like, I think I thought I'd be a little more
like that.
But,
yeah.
No.
All right, guys. Well, so this has been a horrifying episode for at least one of us. I'm deeply traumatized, and we'll have to speak to a therapist about this, I'm sure, on multiple occasions. But I think that's probably a good place to end because it's not super disgusting, which is what I feel like at least 80% of this episode has been, and what it sounds like motherhood is.
Yeah.
So for everybody who tuned in, listened all the way through to the end, thank you. We appreciate you. Please make sure that you like and subscribe and rate and all of that on any platform you like, whether it's YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. All of that support helps, and we really appreciate it. But until next time, have a really good day and a really good week, our hellbound friends.
Woo.
See you next week.
Bye.
You didn't ask for a bird, but you were born. Welcome to planet Earth each day. It's death and more. And while we watch you die,